to start out with 30, 60, 90 today. 30, 60, 90 special right triangles, formulas, little shortcuts. The shortcut is x square roots of 3 and 2x. Now this particular triangle is created from an equilateral triangle where all angles are the same. And if you take and drop an altitude, that means you split that top angle in half and they become 30 and 30. So this is where the 30, 60, 90 triangle comes from. So with special right triangles, 30, 60, 90, equilateral is important. They may on the test say something about an equilateral triangle instead of telling you it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So that's important. The other important thing is knowing which side goes to what angle. So what we say is that the shortest side is across or opposite the smallest angle. So the smallest angle is opposite the short leg. Shortest leg, short leg, smallest leg. So I've got short here. I guess I can go ahead and get rid of the second side of this 30, 60, 90 and work with one triangle. Okay, so across from my 60 then, opposite my 60 would be the long leg. They call this the long leg. So across from 60 is the long leg. And then of course across from the 90 degrees is always your hypotenuse. Okay, so we need to know that when we're actually working the problems. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump right into some problems. So we'll start out with some 30s across from the 30 and figure it out from there. So if I draw my little triangle, I know I'm not a very good drawer. That's okay. 30, 60, 90. And I want to know, maybe I'm given that this leg, the short leg, is 5. So that means I'm going to take my formula, 30, 60, 90. I'm going to plug in the actual formulas that go to that spot, those angles. And since I was given the 30, it's across, that 5 is across from the 30, or opposite the 30. That's where I'm going to put it, is underneath the 30. Now if you notice, that 30 is my x. That x is the same exact x for 60 and for 90. They're no different. So I'm going to take that 5 and I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to substitute it. So when I substitute for my 60, I get 5 square roots of 3. And when I substitute for my 90, I get 10. So now I know all the legs. Let's pretend that this is A and this is B. So across from my 60 is my A, so it would be 5 square roots of 3. And across from my B is 10. So that's it. That's everything you have to do for a small leg, except when you're giving something a little bit harder, right? There's always something a little harder. So what if I said instead of 5 for my short leg, I'm going to give you 5 square roots of 2. That's still my x value. No matter how long it is, no matter what it's made up of, it's still my x value because it lives across from the 30. Everywhere I see an x, I'm going to substitute the x that I have. So 5 square roots of 2 times the square root of 3. These x times the square root of 3, that's x square roots of 3. Those two things are multiplied. You have square roots. You can put them under the same house, and you get 5 square roots of 6 for 60 degrees. And then when I solve for my 90 degrees, it's 2 times 5 square roots of 2, which give me 10 square roots of 2. So across from my 90 would be my b, and this would be 10 square roots of 2. And across from my 60 would be 5 square roots of 6. So a little bit harder, not too bad. I think between the two of them, this is the harder one for you guys to understand. So you just need to be careful. Plug in for your x. You've got an x, use it. That's the best part about it. Makes it easy. All right, so what if I'm given across from my 60? Now life gets a little more challenging, right? So across from my 60, I'm going to have the value, I'll do the easy one first. If I was given a value of 3 square roots of 3, it lives across from my 60. It's not touching that angle, so this goes in my 60 spot. Notice, what I want you to notice about this is that these square roots match. When they match, that 3 in front of that square root of 3 is your x value. You can take it and substitute it for every other x you see on the page. Well, I shouldn't say page, I should say problem. Every other x in the problem. So that means across from my 30, now I have to give it a letter so that I can describe where it is, would be my c, so it's going to be equal to 3, and my hypotenuse is equal to 6. Okay? So I've filled in all the blanks, and now I can go to something a little more challenging. So that was the easy portion of that 60-degree angle. Now let's give you something that's not quite so easy. How about across from my 60 is, I don't know. Across from my 60 is 6. Oops, need my pencil. Across from my 60, I'm going to have just 6. Well, my goodness. Not doing very good there. Sorry. Hold on. Get rid of all this. Get where I'm supposed to be. So across from my 60, what did I say? 6. So I've got 6. So that means still I put it where the 60 is. Now instead of having a square root attached to it or looking like or having a square root of 3, I've actually got to solve it. So the square root, the x square roots of 3 is equal to the 6. So that means I've got to set them equal to each other and divide by the square root of 3. So when you divide by the square root of 3, you have to rationalize the denominator, top and bottom. I can multiply across the top. I get 6 square roots of 3, and then I can multiply across the bottom. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, and the square root of 9 is just 3. Okay, so I've got 6 square roots of 3 divided by 3. Well, it's not finished. This is when you hear the moans. It's not finished because you have to simplify your number. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 6 two times. So you have a grand total for your x value of 2 square roots of 3. So now I have my x, and I can figure out what my 90 degrees is by substituting in my x value. So I've got 2 times 2 is 4 square roots of 3. So my across from my 90 degrees would be 4 square roots of 3. And across from my 30 degrees would be 2 square roots of 3. Alright, so it looks kind of funny because we ended up with square roots of 3 everywhere except for in the 60. That's okay. It doesn't matter. As long as you follow the rules and as long as you follow the formula, it's okay that your numbers look a little strange. Alright, so now let's go on to 90 degrees. And no matter what's across from the hypotenuse, you're going to have to divide by 2. There is nothing that makes that problem any different. So let's say that our 90 degrees is 4. Well, those two things are equal, and I've got to set them equal to each other to get to my x. So the opposite of multiplication is division, and x is equal to 2. Well, that is the same x that's here and the same x that's right there. Doesn't get much harder than that. That is your 90 degrees. Okay? So if my hypotenuse is 4, just like with your 45, 45, 90 triangles, you can use Pythagorean theorem. It works. It's just sometimes a little bit longer to use. So I'm going to say, I need to find some x's here, right? Well, this one's a little bit different. I'm going to back off of that, and we'll discuss that in class because we haven't talked about it much with the 30, 60, 90. Okay? So, what's left? Okay, we can go ahead. I'll do the Pythagorean theorem. Now, you're given the hypotenuse, but you're not given the legs. So you have to use the formula that actually goes with those legs. All right? So that means Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So my short leg would be x squared, and my long leg would be x square roots of 3 squared, and my hypotenuse is 4. All right, a little messy. We've got 8 square root x squared, sorry about that, plus, I've got to take this exponent and give it to both of those. So I've got x squared times this 2 and that square root cancel each other. They're inverses of each other. So that would be a 3. And then, whoops, forgot to put the squared on that one. So 4 squared would be 16. So if I clean this up, I've got 3x squared plus 1x squared, which gives me 4x squared. All right, so I divide by 4. I get x squared is equal to 4. And then I have to square root because I got to get rid of that 2 off the top of that x. So when I square root that, I end up with x is equal to 2. And normally when you square root something, it's plus or minus, but this is talking about a length, and we don't want any negative lengths. So we just talk about the positive version. So that means my x is equal to 2, which is what we found. And then we just plug it in for our 60 degrees. So you get the same answers we got by using the short version, 30, 60, 90. Okay? I'm going to look over here on some of your homework to see if I've hit pretty much everything that you guys need. Let me erase this. I think a popular one that was missed in class was when you had a homework problem that said across from the 60 was the square root of 3. Well, guess what? That still follows the 30, 60, 90 rule with my formulas, x square roots of 3 and 2x. And if it's crossed from my 60, then I have square roots of 3. How many square roots of 3 do you see there? That's right, there's only 1. There's an understood 1 in front of that square root of 3. So I can take that x value, that 1 is my x, and plug it in for the rest of them. So 2 times 1 is 2. Sometimes the most obvious of what we already know just slips our mind. So got to be careful with those that don't have a number in front of them. Now, I'm looking at your homework for this weekend, and let's see. Hold on just a second. Let me go through here and see what you might need. Okay, now on your homework, the practice worksheet, not the trig, but the practice worksheet, for number 6, you had a problem that looked kind of like this. And they show you that these two base angles are alike, and the hypotenuse is 9 square roots of 2. Okay, what do we remember? If my two base angles are the same, that means my two sides are the same. Also, if those two base angles are the same, then my 90 degrees minus 180 is 90, so they both have to be 45. So you can think of it either way. You can back your way into 45, or you can know that once your base angles are the same, it's the converse, your sides are the same. So these are both x, and this becomes a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So with my 45, 45, 90 triangle, I have x, x, x square roots of 2, and they actually gave me the hypotenuse. So guess what? All I have to do is pull that x off of there, and my legs are 9 each. Okay, so that's one problem that might give you a little bit of trouble if you don't realize those are 45, 45 degree angles. I am looking at the rest of it. I think you've got number 13. That is the same thing as what I did for number 6. Those two base angles are the same, so that turns into a 45, 45, 90 triangle. All right, good luck with this, and don't forget you can always text me if you need to.